Bryce. Hope you're having a great week so far. I know it's a little unusual to be doing our lesson this way, but it tends to work out as a good option to make sure we can still get a lesson in this week and keep you moving forward with your practice without kind of getting bored or feeling like you're just doing the same stuff over and over again. So I got all of the videos and then the picture of your theory homework. So I'm kind of just gonna go piece by piece here, very similar to what we would actually do in a lesson, except now obviously I'm pretty much talking to myself and you're not here to interact with me, but I'm gonna go through everything one at a time and give you some ideas and some new things to be working on for this week in your practice. And that'll pretty much be it. Okay, so first thing that I want to do is take a look at the theory. I did already check the theory assignment and you did a perfect job. You actually did a fantastic job. All of your notes are correct. They're all on the lines like they were supposed to be. We named them all correctly. It looks like you maybe forgot that it was in bass clef this time and started naming in treble clef, which you were getting the right answers for treble clef, but then it looks like you remembered and erased those and filled them in for bass clef correctly. So you did a great job with the names. You did a great job with the drawing portion as well. So all of your notes are beautifully lined up on all the lines. We didn't forget and put anything on a space instead of a line, and all of your stems are even going in the right direction. So very good job paying attention to kind of the example notes that they printed for you and making sure that you were replicating that in the homework. You did wonderful. So for this week, we've had page 11. So we've done the first half of page 11. That's what you did for me for today. And so we're going to finish the page and do the bottom section for next week. So there's still only two different exercises. It'll be number 7 and number 8 on page 11. And this time we're going to be looking at bass clef space notes. So last time we did all of our bass clef line notes. Now we're going to work on the spaces. So for the spaces, again, they lay it all out for you very clear. You've got where all of your notes would be played on the keyboard, and you notice all of our spaces, they just skip, right? It's every other white key on the keyboard. And then down here, they also show you where they would all show up in the spaces on the bass clef staff. So for number 7, you're just gonna name the notes for me, okay? Just like you did on the bass clef lines. First line, you just name all the notes that they've printed there. And then on number 8, you're going to draw in the notes that they've asked you to draw. Now here's where you have to be paying a little extra attention, right? You have to make sure that you put not only the correct note in each measure, but that it's also on a space. Remember, some of our notes can show up on a line or on a space, right? So we don't want any of the line ones, even if it's technically the right letter name. We want to make sure we're showing that in the right space instead of on a line. They also want you to use whole notes this time. So on the top half of the page, when we did our drawing, you had to use quarter notes. Now they want you to use whole notes. So you just want to be extra careful that you're making sure you read all the instructions as you finish up the page. But we'll go ahead and do number 7 and number 8 on page 11 for next week. Okay. All right, let's go on. The next thing is actually the F pentascale. So your pentascale is looking very good. We're doing a great job with our B flat. We're doing a really good job remembering the order of the scale part, up and down, and then the triad, and we just did the triad once. That was a very well done portion of your pentascale in the recording, and then we finish with the F chord all together, right? All 3 notes at once. So the scale portion, I want to remind you, we only have to do that 3 times. It looks like maybe you either lost count or you forgot how many times you did or how many times you were supposed to do. So I think we had an extra time in the recording. You just want to make sure that you're only going up and down 3 times. Don't make it longer than it has to be, right? Just what you need to do. And then the other thing I want you to try this week is, this may have been because you were also practicing page 9 from our lesson book. So you were very much in staccato mode, which I totally get. For our pentascale, we want to make sure that we're playing legato, okay? So instead of very disconnected notes like this, we want to make sure that it's smooth and one note goes right to the next one, okay? It doesn't have to be that fast if you want to slow it down. Make sure that you're getting to each note with plenty of time to think about it and get your fingers coordinating. That's perfectly fine as well. But we want a nice, smooth legato approach to our playing on the pentascale this week. I'd like this to be our last week working on it. So when we come next time, I'm going to have some new technique for us to start. But that's how I want you to work on it this week, okay? Remember, the scale part, only play 3 times, and then when the whole thing from start to finish is being played, it's all legato, nice and smooth, okay? I think that was everything. Let me double check my notes here. Yes, that was everything. Okay, now for our lesson book, we had page 9, working on this ping pong song. And it sounds like you maybe were having a little bit of trouble with it, which I understand. We didn't get a chance to go over it last week. It's kind of been a while since we worked on this a lot together. And so I just want to remind you about a couple things for working on it the rest of the week until I see you next time. So the first line, we did a great job. Remember, when you get to this guy, the very last thing your right hand plays at the end of the first line, that's gonna sound not very nice. I saw you kind of make a face at it, the camera, when you got to that point. So it really is gonna be E and F together there. Nice crunchy little half step, okay? Now the good news is it's staccato. So, oh, I hit an extra key. Sounded nicer than it was supposed to. There we go. So it is gonna be nice and quick, okay? But it is E and F. It'll be your 3rd and 4th fingers together for your right hand, and it will sound like not your favorite thing in the world. Okay, so that's that portion. Now the second line, it looked like, is where we had a little bit more trouble with our notes. So I want to go over that for a second here. Now, if you remember, and you may not, that's okay, but when we last worked on this together, I wanted you to, before you even played it in your practice, say your note names out loud, then play the song. Okay, we did that together a little bit too. So just looking at our notes, we said, okay, we're gonna name every note as we go and do it out loud, right? So that would be C, 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 D, 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 E, 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 F, E and F together, okay? That's your first line. And then we did the same thing with the second line, right? G, 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 F, 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 E, E, D, D, C, and then another wonderful crunchy half step together. But this one is different because we can't just watch the finger numbers. If we look, we have wonderful, helpful finger numbers printed for us to remind us which fingers we're supposed to use to make it easiest to play. However, our notes are not in the spot where those fingers currently are. We actually have to move your hand when we get to that point, okay? So let's see. I do want you to try out the note naming again this week. I can't actually ask you right at this moment if you've been practicing it that way, but whether or not that you have, I do think that'll be helpful for the next few days that you work on this. Read through your note names just like that. Again, if you get stuck, that's okay. You can check your note naming guide. You can use your flashcards to help you. You can look back at some of your old theory pages or find something else to help you remember what some of those notes are if you're really just having trouble remembering, or if you're not sure if you got the right one, right? Don't guess and be unsure. If you really are like, I think it's this, but I'm not 100% sure on it, then go look it up somewhere else or double check it with something else that we've used, so that way you know for sure that you have the right note, okay? Don't leave it uncertain. If you need to make a best guess and then go in and double check it, that's fine. But don't make a best guess and then go, oh, it's probably good enough, right? So we want to make sure that we're making sure we have all the right notes when we read it out loud, and then we're going to play it through. Now, an extra challenge would be to try both things at once, to say your note names out loud as you actually are playing them. For instance, C, 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 D, 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 E, 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 F, E and F together, okay? So that would be another way you could go about it if you want to have the extra challenge there, because your brain really has to work hard to remember, what are my note names? Say them out loud as I play the staccato notes, which hand is playing, all kinds of things going on. But it can be pretty helpful if you're up for it. So that's another idea there. Now, let's see. When your right hand gets to the end, I want you to be careful about naming those notes. If you know what your notes are, you know where your hand is going to have to move to, right? But if you're just kind of guessing or going off of the finger numbers and not the notes, you're not going to be in the right spot, okay? So double check those last two notes for the right hand there. Make sure that you're moving your hand where it needs to be to play your last two notes with the fourth and fifth finger in the right hand together. Overall, this piece looks pretty good. I think it's just been kind of challenging with our note names, but you've done a great job with the staccato playing, which is really what I wanted to focus on mostly with this piece. So this will most likely be our last week working on this song as well. I want to go over it together with you next time when I see you here, but the whole point for this week is really going to be to see if we can tighten up those note names and get that feeling a little bit more comfortable, because your staccato technique looks wonderful. So I'm really happy with that. I like to move on after this week, but we'll still see if we can get that feeling a little bit more tightened up between now and your next lesson, okay? Let's see, what else did I want to say? I think that's it for this song. We're also going to be starting a new piece next week. So we'll get lots of new things that are fresh and fun going for you next time. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out, because I was able to see you playing at home with your current setup, I did want to make one suggestion. So when you're playing at home, you always, and this is for everything with piano, let's see, I'll put it here, it's a little more natural spot for my arm. So you always want to try and make sure that we have these lovely curved fingers, right, which you did a great job on, and then that the top of our hand and the wrist and your forearm more or less are creating this tabletop, this straight line across, okay? Now what's going on with your home setup is it seems like your chair is maybe, or you're not on a chair, sorry, I'm on a chair right now. Your bench at home maybe is a little bit low. What that's doing is that's bringing your whole person down a little bit, so you kind of have to reach up for the keys. It drags your wrist down, and then your arm kind of tries to compensate, so we end up with this kind of approach or this kind of approach instead of this, okay? So I'm gonna demonstrate a really easy solution here right now, because this is my office setup and not where I would normally play piano. So everything is not totally, great. This is my office chair, not my piano bench. But I'm currently sitting on these two cushions in order to elevate myself to the right height to actually play here. If I take these away, just my normal chair height, now, see what happened to my arm? Let me lower this a little bit so you can see better. Okay, here's my arm. If I'm going up to play like this, I've got this dip, right? It's like a V shape now instead of more of that nice right angle shape this way, okay? So just by taking away the cushions and lowering myself, now I'm too low. What this does is it actually puts a little bit more strain on the muscles in here. If you notice, if I do similar motions to when I'm playing, see all of this movement that's going on here? All of these lovely tendons that make it possible for your fingers to do really cool and fun stuff. Well, they're having a little bit of a harder time from this angle, and even more of a hard time if it's just the wrist that's bent low. Now, oh my goodness, you can see they even just look a little bit more strained this way. So we just want to make it easier on the, these are already a little fatigued just demonstrating it, so we don't want that. Instead of this angle, right, we want to just keep this a nice straight line and keep that at a right angle. Now we don't want to be overcorrecting this way. I love your hand position and your hand posture and your lovely curved fingers. That all looks great. We want to keep that. We just want to raise you a little bit so that this straightens out here, okay? So that's what I would try at home this week. Add a cushion or two underneath your bench so that you're raised enough to create that straight line from the top of your hand to your wrist to your arm. And again, we don't want to tense up and get locked this way. It's just about the position of where your forearm is really able to rest, okay? So that's really just a height issue with the bench versus the keyboard, okay? So give that a try. I'll ask you about it when I see you next week. And you can check back with this video if you forget certain things you were supposed to do, or if you're not sure if you're practicing everything, this is how you'll get your practice notes. Instead of written on a paper in your binder this week, you'll have this video, okay? If you run into any issues, your mom can always let me know, but otherwise I will see you here next week for your regular lesson, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.